ReefDudes is sponsored by Ecotech Marine and Bulk Reef Supply.
When it comes to battery backups for your tank, you can always have more power. So today we're checking the all-new Bluetti 1232. What's going on, guys? Devin from ReefDudes. So Bluetti reached out to me and they released an all-new battery. This one is 314 amp hours of lithium iron phosphate, which is crazy how much juice is in this package. So I'm really excited to check this one out. This one also is self-heated, which is huge if you live somewhere with a colder climate. Where I am, half the year is nice and toasty, but part of the year is cold. So if I want to run this in the garage or somewhere remote, it's self-heated. It'll heat itself up if it gets too cold, so your battery backup works no matter what time of year it is. Super duper cool. Now, one other crazy thing with these is you can expand it up to 385 kilowatt hours, which is insane. It's ludicrous because most of them only let you put a couple in series, or this one you can do a ton of them in a series parallel configuration. So we got some mounting rails. We got some battery connector covers. We got a little network cable, looks like for COM to interconnect the batteries. Got a bunch of different mounting hardware, screws, bolts, and one for the leads. Now, one of the big reasons I love these over lead acid, lead acid you're gonna get 500-600 cycles. These you're getting closer to 6,000 cycles. And with 6,000 cycles, you could fully charge and discharge this every day for about 14-15 years, which is insane. Now there's also the 1210, which is a 100 amp hour battery, but I of course decided to go for the 314 amp hour. Now it is IP65 rated, so you're pretty darn safe using it around a tank in a wet environment, which is another big plus. It has triple protection, so there's lots of safety features built in, which again, always a good thing around the reef tank inside your house. Now most lithium batteries ship around 40 to 50% state of charge, so we're gonna start out by charging this baby up. So I'm gonna grab my charger and we'll get some juice flowing into it. So I have my charger hooked up. Positive, negative, and now what we got is turned on. So it's really cool, it actually has a power button. So we're gonna turn the battery on and wake it up. Now that's on, it should actually show up under my Bluetti app. Okay, so my 20 amp charger just kicked in. You can see it's putting 20 amps of current into it. So 20 amps to boost all the way back up. Looks like it'll take about 11.5 hours to get us to full charge. So we're gonna let this run overnight and we will check back tomorrow to hook it up and actually do some testing. All right, so this baby is fully charged. Now, last week's video, I was showing the Tune 6255, which is a beast of a power head and insanely efficient. So now I wanna see how long this baby could actually run it for, because in a few weeks, I'm gonna be redoing the tank, and all this is getting ripped out in the next week or two, and I'm redoing the flooring and setting it all back up. On the new build, I'm using this baby for my battery backup. So this thing is fully charged. It's really cool Bluetooth app, so you can see the wattage in and out. It's self-heated, so if I wanna put it outside, I could have it live outside, in a garage somewhere colder, and you don't have to worry about charging with low temperature with lithium iron phosphate batteries. So super duper cool. Yeah, so we're gonna see what this thing will actually draw with the Tunesy one. I am gonna pick up the official one that cuts it over with like a relay. I'm obviously gonna wire this up properly later with proper connectors and terminals, but just for a quick test, we wanna see if this is going to power our Tunesy and see what it will do. So I'm gonna turn the battery back on, hold down the little power button, and we see it lit up and back to running flow. So let's turn off our return pump and our other power heads. Now this is running 100% just the one Tunesy 6255 at around 50% off of the battery. It will be a little bit less percentage in the equivalence because it's running at 12 volts instead of 24. I believe it's about 2/3 of the flow output. You can see the torch is moving, you can see the hammer at the end of the tank, so it's getting flow everywhere. So in a power outage backup scenario, this is plenty of flow to keep the corals and the fish happy. Now, given that I have 615.5 hours, which is equivalent to about 25.5 days, there's still a ton of capacity. I don't expect to be out of power for a month. Now, it is entirely possible, I've heard people, during fire season and stuff being without power for, a week or two. So it's good to know that this could 100% keep my tank alive through it, which is huge. Now, given I have so much headroom, I'm probably gonna look at adding maybe my return pump back into it, maybe the aquarium controller onto it, and a couple other things just so it's kind of like more of a full system. Again, I'm not gonna add my lights, I'm not gonna add the heaters, I'm not gonna add the massive power sucks, but I think a return pump and a power head, running for a couple weeks is huge. So that's like a massive level of redundancy for the tank. And you of course could use a much smaller battery. This thing is 314 amp hours, but not even the length of my forearm. So in the grand scheme of things, it's not that big and it's easy to hide inside a stand. So that, you know, this is more or less waterproof. I believe it's IP65. And compared to the good old days of steel lead acid batteries, this thing is so much more efficient. A battery with this much capacity would be massive and weigh a bazillion pounds. The major bit of importance here is this is running my power head, and it can run it for a month and still get flow and keep all my corals and all my fish tank alive. So from a preparedness perspective, that is pretty dang awesome. You know, even at the far end of the 6-foot tank, you know, I'm still getting movement in all my corals. Now, lack of flow in a power outage is where stuff's gonna go downhill fast. You know, when something dies, something happens, it's just gonna snowball from there. So being able to provide flow in a power outage is basically what's gonna keep your tank alive. Now looking at this, I think this would actually just slide into the stand just about perfectly. So really cool way to do it. Now obviously there's like, you know, 100 amp hour one, which is way smaller, but I'm going for longevity. I have a big tank, I like to run lots of stuff, and this guy is definitely gonna do it for me. Now, while I can put this in the stand, I think I realistically am probably gonna put this one outside and hook it up to my solar so that I can more or less run indefinitely. And that's gonna be, you know, big saver in keeping the tank running long term. Now, if you're really short on space, I mean, they also have a 100 amp hour version, which is gonna be, you know, much smaller. And, you know, a smaller tank is a really good solution. But because I got the big one, and I'm gonna be able to run lots of stuff off it, and because it is self-heated, which is huge, I'm in Canada, I can let this live in the cabinet outside in the carport over winter. And I don't have to worry about the cold damaging the battery. So with lithium iron phosphate batteries, they don't like to be charged below freezing. So having this out there, I will be able to run it properly ongoing. I do find it super cool that you can turn off the battery because that just makes it feel extra safe as I'm wiring up stuff together. And then you don't really have to worry about anything sparking or, you know, any live connections. Also does come with these little boots, so if you wanted, you could put those over to just protect the terminals. I'm not going to use them yet, but I might put them in later. Now we also do have a 3000 watt inverter that's over here, which I can use for backup. So again, that might be something when I install that permanently to it, and I can have that as an option to power it on if I need to power something else in a power outage. All right, so everything's hooked up, so I should be able to turn this back on. And we have power. This is really cool. This tells you the battery temperature. Now it is at 100%, so the solar's not really doing anything to charge it right now, but once it is actually down, so it is actually in use, it will be recharged as I use it. So this will basically run my tank indefinitely for flow, which is super cool. And if you guys are new to the channel, I built this kind of years ago, but this is 4 100 watt panels. This is going to have hooked up to recharge things. So, you know, in the event of an extended outage, as I'm draining power, power's also going to be getting pumped back into the battery to recharge it, so I can keep on going on and on and on and keep my tank happy for the long term. Now, a big shout out to Bluetti for hooking me up with a new battery. This thing's an absolute beast and I love it. It's a wicked upgrade for my tank. You know, the fact that I can have it, you know, mounted in the tank, it's IP65, it's getting splashed with water, it's not gonna hurt it. You know, the case is fireproof, has a smart BMS that you can turn on and off. There's a lot of really cool features on this. Not to mention it's gonna last me like 15 years or longer on the tank. So really, really cool. And I hope this stresses the importance of a proper battery backup to a lot of you guys. You know, where I am, you know, we have forest fires, you know, some years. You know, if you go to like Florida, a lot of these places, you guys have hurricanes and stuff and get knocked out the power. You know, just on the news yesterday, a tree fell into a power line and people were without power for a couple of days. That could be disastrous to Reef Tank. So I have a bit of a battery backup obsession, and there's a good reason for it. It's because stuff has happened close to home to people I know. So I have a bit of an obsession with making sure my tank can survive anything with or without me. And if you don't have anything set up yet, consider it. You know, at the very minimum, have a power head on a battery backup. Now, this is probably about the last time we're going to see the tank in its current state. Probably in the next week or so, it's going to start being taken down. It's going to be moved into the trough tank. You know, I'm redoing all my flooring. Those rooms already have gutted, and we're going to be rebuilding it. So we're going to do a bit of a follow-up kind of series on what changes would I make? How am I going to reset this up? How am I going to reset up my Apex from scratch? You know, what fallback states do I need? What stuff actually needs to be backed up? And what stuff's fine to be offline? You know, if I, you know, where I've already had other considerations like in my stand, maybe I build an acrylic tray and put leak sensors in it for, you know, calcium reactors or any and anything that could potentially leak in a system, make it contained, especially with new flooring. So there's gonna be a lot more thought going to rebuilding, since it's kind of like a do-over of the same tank with some tweaks. And I don't know, I think it's gonna be really cool. So hopefully you guys are along for the journey. You wanna pick up one of these wicked batteries and back up your tank, there will be links in the descriptions. Always, you pick one up through there. It does support the channel, so thank you. So if you got any questions, let me know and I'll be sure to get to them in a future video or answer them in the comments. Otherwise, hit the like button, hit subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.